Let's travel back in time to 600 AD. This is a map of the Christian world at that time. All the highlighted areas show where Christianity had spread and become the majority religion. Wait a minute, is that the Middle East and North Africa? Yes, it is. These two areas used to be Christian. People today think of these as Muslim lands, but that was not always the case. By 900 AD, Islam had expanded, by conquest, all the way to France and southern Italy. Christians in conquered lands were second-class citizens and many were taken as slaves. Christian inhabitants had to pay an enormous tax called the dhimmi tax, and their churches were often shut down. Because of Islamic policies, over the centuries, Christianity in the Middle East and North Africa shrunk from a large majority to a tiny minority. But it was around 1000 AD when things really escalated on multiple fronts. In the West, the Islamic Caliphate of Cordoba in Iberia began expanding north. It conquered, burned, and enslaved its way through multiple Christian cities, including Barcelona and Leon. It was this expansion campaign that finally provoked the Christian kingdoms to launch the Reconquista to retake Iberia from Islam. But if things looked rough in Western Christendom, they were even worse in the East. In the late 900s, a Central Asian Muslim group called the Seljuk Turks began migrating into Anatolia. In 1064, they completely conquered Armenia and sacked its capital, Ani. The city never recovered from this brutality and remains a ruin to this very day. Almost all of the Armenian population had to migrate southeast to Cilicia, creating an entire new kingdom called Cilician Armenia. In other words, Islam had made the Armenian homeland unlivable. The Turks then turned their expansion into the Byzantine Empire. They began invading western Anatolia in droves. The Byzantines tried to launch counterattacks, but were ultimately defeated at the Battle of Manzikert. After this defeat, Turks began mass migrating into Anatolia, completely altering its demographics. Another region of the Christian world had just become Islamic by force. 300 years later, in the 1600s, Ottoman power would be broken by what was basically a crusade. The Christian Holy League of Austria, Poland, Venice, and Russia united to defeat the Ottomans and drive them back from Europe. Europe was safer and more interconnected than any time since the Roman Empire. They were beginning to truly understand just how much damage Islam had done to the Christian world, and how much of a civilizational threat it still represented.
And last Christmas Eve, in a dramatic escalation of this campaign, 18 died and 120 people were injured when bombs ripped through 18 churches across Java and Sumatra.
In Pakistan, a Muslim mob attacked several Christian churches. It happened in the eastern province of Punjab, in the district of Faisalabad. As many as 8 churches were targeted. This is response to accusations that a Christian man allegedly desecrated the pages of a Quran, Islam's holy book. Upon hearing the charges, angry Muslims rioted in the Christian area and also attacked homes. Desecrating a Quran is a violation of Pakistan's blasphemy laws. Father Gulsan Bakrat, professor of church history at the National Catholic Institute of Theology, said the charges were false.
So far, the cases which have emerged, so-called blasphemy, pertaining to blasphemy laws, most of the 100% of those cases were falsely accused, and maybe they wanted to grab the land, they wanted to chase out the Christian community from the area.
Mother of 3, Maria Edliger, is among 1 million Indonesians forced from their homes by what appears to be ethnic and religious hatred, but which often has its roots in deliberate provocation. She was among 800 Christians threatened with death if they refused to convert to Islam. She fled their remote island home of Kasui with her family, but could not save herself nor her 75-year-old mother from a barbaric mutilation forced upon them as a sign of their new faith.
So far, what we can say about this attack is that, as you were explaining, at least 7 people has been killed in a shooting against a bus that was coming from a baptism in a monastery, while according to the Coptic Orthodox Church spokesperson Facebook page, another bus and another minibus had been attacked similarly, and some Coptic media are reporting already at least 10 victims and 20 injured.
A bombing at Cairo's largest Coptic cathedral has killed at least 25 people and wounded nearly 50 others. Most of the victims are reported to have been women and children.
Churches in the UK have been advised to be on alert following the killing of 85-year-old Father Jacques Carmel in his Catholic church in Rouen, Normandy.
3 people have been killed and several others are wounded after what police believe was a terrorist attack at a church in the southern coastal city of Nice.
Christian refugees are being attacked by Muslims in Germany's refugee shelters. Migrants say they have been physically assaulted and insulted because of their Christian faith, even receiving death threats, while others have claimed they were victims of sexual abuse.
In all, there have been 11 bombings across 5 provinces since Thursday. At least 4 people have been killed and 34 wounded. Now, let's map it out where these blasts took place, including some major tourist destinations. The highest number of casualties has been in the coastal resort of Hua Hin. 2 explosions there on Thursday evening, an additional 2 blasts on Friday morning. Last night, 21 people were wounded, many of them foreign visitors, and we've learned these visitors include citizens of Italy, Germany, the Netherlands, and Austria. A Thai national was killed. This morning, 2 more bombs went off at 9 a.m. in Hua Hin near the clock tower. 1 person is dead.
More than 150 teachers have been killed in terrorist attacks in South Thailand since violence erupted in January 2004. Reassured people that her government will do its best to bring peace to the southern border provinces, which are dominated by a Muslim majority. But living amid such instability is an emotionally traumatic experience for the children. In some of the most dangerous areas, children are escorted to school by armed soldiers every day. One school was closed after a teacher was shot dead in front of his students in the school canteen in a terrorist attack in February this year. Deep South Watch has been monitoring the regional violence since it erupted in January 2004. They report that more than 5,000 people have been killed and more than 9,000 others injured in over 11,000 incidents.
ISIS captured the Philippine city, holding it for 5 months before losing it just weeks ago. More than 500,000 people fled this battle, and you can see why. The destruction here is just astonishing. They look like the war-torn streets of Iraq or Syria, but this was the new front line for ISIS in Asia. Marang. It took the city with a few hundred men.
They're the 15,000-strong Moro Islamic Liberation Front, the MILF, today's flag bearers in an historic conflict. Discipline and organisation forged by their part in the 400-year fight for an Islamic state in Mindanao.
Mobs burning churches, more than 100 killed, women raped and paraded in the streets. Hear the shocking reason behind these attacks against Christians.
Terrorist attacks on Christians in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia have increased 309% between 2003 and 2010.
Gunmen stormed the Westgate Mall on a busy Saturday. Brandishing AK-47s and handguns, they cornered shoppers. Those who couldn't prove they were Muslim were shot.
The rest of the country has borne the brunt of al-Shabaab's violence, the worst in recent history being the October 2017 bombing in the capital of Mogadishu, which killed over 500 people. Kismayo has been relatively peaceful by comparison, a peace that has now been shattered with yesterday's bloodshed.
And Muslims around Myanmar. Do you think there's a future where both groups can live alongside each other?
Muslimer som har kommet til Norge, til Sverige, til Europa, de må sendes tilbake.
I think our Prime Minister has a little bit been lost in the clouds into the dreams of multiculturalism. And I admit, those are wonderful dreams. They sound very good. But unfortunately, the situation on the ground is not like that. What we've been promised is love and understanding. What we've gotten is the value system of an Islamic State.
It's not just black people. The slave is slave. There's no color. They're slave everyone. Yes. If you want to be a slave of Allah, you can be. If not, walk away. Wow, I'm so happy this is on camera. Yeah, you can choose. This is why we don't want Islam. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we don't want Islam.